For the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as customary, can you please share a moment of silence? I need to make the announcement that this meeting is being recorded and televised by a local cable station. I need a motion to accept the bill and payroll warrant.
Motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to accept the correspondence and the refile.
Motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody here wish to speak in public forum? Please rise now. No, guess not. Approval of meeting minutes for open session, May 7th, 2018. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And I need a motion to approve the open session meeting minutes for May 15th, 2018.
Motion.
Second. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
New business. Make physical 19 annual appointments. I need a motion that we make an appointment for all the appointed positions within the town.
Motion for as listed.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, request that the Andrea Rounds be deleted from the appointments as she will be unavailable to serve
Okay.
on the Cultural Council.
Okay, with that adjustment, we have that motion with that adjustment? Second?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
She's quitting.
And now we're going to make announcements of committee vacancies. Just for the people out there who wish to get on board and maybe help us out a little bit in town. We have a number of vacancies on certain committees and boards. We have one vacancy for an alternate delegate on the AAA Advisory Committee. We have 2 vacancies for the Building Facility Capital Expenditure Committee. We have 1 vacancy for the Bylaw Study Committee. We have 1 vacancy and 2 alternate member vacancies for the Conservation Commission. We have 1 vacancy for the Economic Development Committee, 1 vacancy for the Fair Housing Committee, 1 vacancy and 2 alternate member vacancies for the Historical Commission. And the Old Colony Planning Council Joint Transportation Committee, we have 1 alternate vacancy. And Recreation Commission, we have 1 non-voting member vacancy. And the Whitman Cultural Council, we have 2 vacancies. And keeping in mind, and I believe in the Cultural Council, there's rules and regulations about you can only serve like 6, you can't do 2 consecutive terms.
2 consecutive terms, 6 years.
So that's why, vacancies happen. A person can't re-up. If their term ends, they can't re-up for another term. They have to wait, a year goes by, and then they can do it again. So we would appreciate if anybody who was thinking about getting on a board or a committee and help out the town, we'd really appreciate it. Okay, act on the appointment of Lisa Green to the position of Chief Procurement Officer. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to hear about it.
Huh?
I'd like to hear about it.
Yeah?
Lisa has
Lisa.
completed the MCPPO courses. She's been serving as our Chief Procurement Officer for the last year, and this vote will allow us to send her in for appointment as an MCPPO.
Well, she can be an MCPPO without being a CPO. She's already got the designation of an MCPPO. she's a master certified public purchasing officer. The chief procurement officer is just the person in the town.
But the definition of the MCPPO for a town is the chief procurement officer.
Which is, brings up the other question is, so I had sent something over. Did we actually put together a set of policies if you're gonna guide you?
We got those last week. We are working on them. We have to incorporate them into the personnel policy manual.
So the thing that I find odd, and not, it's nothing against Lisa, because I'm sure she's gonna be excellent as a CPO, but, so typically you would be the CPO, whether you're an MCPPO or not.
Typically.
And typically there would be a charter that would explain that, and then you would delegate whatever amount of the authority that that position has to whoever you wanted to. In this case, it would obviously be Lisa.
Right.
And you could delegate as much or as little of the procurement powers. So it's just, it's a different situation, and it's not necessarily the person that becomes the CPO or the delegate, it's the position. So once you've done this, then we've made, a vote of this board would make the assistant town administrator position the CPO of the town.
That's correct.
So, I mean, and not that I'm against that either, but I would like to see that those policies were in effect and that we have them in place in the meantime.
Right, we'll bring them
We get
forward.
into discussion with the rest of the board here.
Right.
Leave it up to you two.
We'll bring them forward at the next meeting.
Right. So, I mean, do you want to postpone this appointment, or do you want
Sure.
to postpone? Is that what we're looking to do?
I'd just like to, that way we know we've got them done, and we can look at them.
Okay.
We can see them.
You know,
put the
I
policies
do
in
want you to
effect.
understand that we currently have a procurement policy in our bylaw that says our procurement is conducted in accordance with state laws.
Which is pretty simple.
Yeah.
And yet, and
But it
that's kind of
follows
the same, yeah,
all of the
I-
rules of 30B.
Yeah, when I'm driving down the road, I'll follow the laws of the road too. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. But in the meantime, we should have policies and that directs all your employees on what they have to do and what you're expecting of them and how you're gonna deal with it when it gets to you. It's just, something that we've been talking about for a long time is a whole set of policies,
Right.
which I think is something that we're gonna discuss in a little bit into this.
Okay. So then you want to postpone, put this on the
Yeah,
agenda?
table it.
We'll table it? So motion to table,
Motion on the table.
Second.
all in favor?
Right.
Okay, it'll be tabled. All right, we need a motion to vote authorize borrowing for streetlight conversion. We need a motion. Can someone make that motion?
Motion.
Second.
Well, we got to read it. You want me to read it? Or you want to read it?
I move that the sale of the $280,000 bond anticipation note dated June 20th, 2018, the note to Century Bank and Trust Company at the price of $280,000 is hereby approved and confirmed. The note shall be payable on May 20th, 2019, and shall bear interest at the rate of 2.05%.
Okay, is there here a second?
Second.
Any discussion on it?
Yes.
Yes.
When this was first proposed, a lot of this was hinging on grants. I just want to know where we stand with those grants right now.
We are awaiting a response from the state on two grants. One is the MAPC grant, and the other is the Green Communities grant. When we presented this, I pointed out that it was our hope and expectation that we would be able to procure grants to pay for the cost, but that if we're unable to do it, the purpose in borrowing was to ensure that we had sufficient funds to pay for the acquisition of the lights and to service the debt if necessary throughout the period of time that we amortize those costs. The net cost to the town, even if we need to service a debt for 3 to 5 years, is going to be no greater than what we're paying now. And if we're successful in getting the grants, it's pure return. And once we've paid for the acquisition of the lights, we'll be enjoying about a $60,000 to $70,000 a year savings.
But I thought it was 51,000 a year savings, and that was,
Lisa, you're more familiar with the numbers, would you talk about it?
and I'll go back to her first presentation, where she says it's a $51,000 a year
Well,
savings.
that's just on the rental.
No, that was an overall savings.
I think the overall savings about $56,000 a year. That's going to be in the beginning. We're going to see a reduction in the rental fee right now. We pay National Grid about $87,000 a year for maintenance costs and rental fees. So once we purchase the streetlights, that cost is going to go away. The savings as far as kilowatt savings and the energy, I don't have the numbers on the top of my head as far as the kilowatt savings, but as far as money savings, should save us. We're going to change from the S1 tariff to the S5 tariff.
Right.
So that will bring the cost down as far as, like I said, about $56,000 less per year.
But then we need to add on a maintenance contract, which still to date, nobody's been able to tell me roughly what that will even be.
With the maintenance contracts, it's, like I said, I have some samples from other towns that I will absolutely share with you. It gives us a roundabout figure, but it's hard because every town has a different amount of streetlights. There's different maintenance plans. Some towns have opted for a per diem plan. Some towns have opted for a batch type of plan where people will call us saying they have trouble. We disperse our company out to fix those lights once a month or once a week. So as far as the different plans, I'm happy to share with you everything that I have. The company that is going to help us with the audit, project management, and design will also help us determine what program, as far as maintenance, will be the best suit for Whitman, and help us to procure maintenance contracts. Now, as far as the grants, we have signed a memorandum of understanding with MAPC, and by signing that,
Is that
they
the
have set
70?
aside.
What's the National Grid one, which is 70,000, I guess a $70,000
Yeah.
savings?
So,
That's the lease of the lights.
yeah, we pay for rental fees and maintenance about $87,000 a year,
Current,
currently.
for the bad lights.
For all of our lights. That's what we pay National Grid per year. So that will go away when we purchase the lights.
Right away.
Right.
But the purchase is $280,000.
Right, well, that's for everything. That's for the audit, that's for the design, that's for the project management, that will be for the purchase of the LEDs, that will be for the company to come in and actually do the retrofit for the lights. And in the meantime, we have our project managers who will be on board from the company that we choose. And so that encompasses the total amount for the entire project. Now, as far as the grants, like I said, we signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with Metropolitan Area Planning Council. And upon signing that, what they do is they set aside an amount of $50,643 for a grant. National Grid also is going to give a utility assistance of about $77,000. So that's with MAPC, Metropolitan Area Planning Council. With Green Communities, we applied for the balance with Green Communities. Given past history, we should find out sometime this month, towards the end, if we are lucky enough to be awarded the Green Communities grant. So we are still crossing our fingers on the grants. But in the meantime, both of these grants are reimbursable grants, so we have to complete the project, finalize all the paperwork, and send it in to MAPC and Green Communities to get those grants, the reimbursements. So that's why we're doing the borrowing up front, because we do need to pay the companies to get this project complete.
And you haven't had any estimates yet on the maintenance contract then? It's just-
Not yet, like I said, because there's
What are the
different plans, and we don't know what type of plan is going to be a best fit for Whitman. There's
What were the ranges of the contracts that you looked at?
Well, some of the ranges, again, because there's different towns have different number of streetlights, they ranged anywhere from 12,000 to, I think, about 123,000. But that was Brockton and Easton that have twice as many lights, 3 times as many lights as we do. And again, it depends on what type of program, maintenance program you pick. Again, I'm happy to share any of the samples that I have with you on what other towns have opted for their maintenance programs and the rates that they've received.
Lisa, I have a question. Say we don't get any of the grants, the 280,000 will get us on board. How long before the savings that we will have will offset that price? How long before the payback?
4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years, then after that, it's multiple savings. It'll be,
The reason I said 70,000, I believe the net savings on the light rentals is 50,000. And I expect that the energy savings is going to be another 20.
we're
That's
looking
where the
right now.
70 comes from.
Right now, the town is looking for ways of saving money, any way we can because of the situation we're in, where we had to cut the budget drastically this year to make ends meet. And I think anything that we do that will save the town money in the long run is we need to plan ahead.
Absolutely, but in the position we're in, you could hypothetically be tacking on another $75,000 to the budget because of this for the next 5 years.
Unless we get the grants. Right, true. That's the roll of the dice. But in the end,
No,
Well-
no, because we would achieve the savings of the rental. Right now, we're paying $162,000,
right.
thereabouts, for
You're gonna have
streetlights.
to pay a $280,000 bond plus the maintenance contract that we don't know what it is.
Well, one thing to remember too, as far as the maintenance, with the brand-new LED lights, they have a much longer life rate. They're going to be brand-new lights. They will be under warranty from the manufacturer. So right in the beginning, for the first 6 months, there should not be any cost as far as maintenance because that would fall into any of the warranties that, for the manufacturer, for the parts and the lights. Again, we haven't chosen a manufacturer yet or the lights, but all of them will come with a warranty. So we won't have any maintenance cost, at least for the first 6 months or to 12 months, from the date the lights are retrofitted and placed.
I think we need to look in the future for the long run, where we're going to save the money.
And like I say, with Metropolitan Area Planning Council, upon Whitman signing the memorandum of understanding, they've already set aside the $50,000. So that grant pretty much, once we sign that, is set. So the Green Communities grant, we applied for about $156,860 from Green Communities to cover the rest of it. So as far as the grants, like I said, I don't have any reason to believe that we would not receive the grant. We followed all deadlines that they required. We've stayed up to date with all the requirements. So I just, again, keep our fingers crossed that we will receive that grant.
Now, how much will we be paying the energy consultant?
With the energy consultant, LightSmart actually was the lowest bidder of the procurement for all the companies. So for the audit, design of the lighting, and project management, their cost is $14,728
And
for
is
the
that
very
coming-
beginning
Is
process.
that coming out of the 280?
Yes, it is.
Any further questions?
No.
Again, as I say, I mean, we need to take a proactive look at where we can save money. And I think this is one way we could probably, it's going to take a few years. Hopefully, it won't take that long because we'll get the grants.
And this is a unique opportunity for
Right.
this time to do this because of the two grants being available at the same time that we can apply for. There's not many communities that follow the timeline that can apply for both of the
Right,
grants.
I'd hate to give that up.
So and it would be heartbroken if we didn't receive Green Communities. We've received it the last 2 years. And again, have abided by all their deadlines, reporting requirements. So if we didn't get Green Communities this year, I really would be very disappointed.
Any further questions? Motion's been made and seconded.
Just a comment,
Okay.
if we were to get nothing, except the 50,000 from MAPC, and we chose to service this debt over 5 years, the principal payment would be $46,000 a year, and the interest cost would be approximately $5,600 a year. So you're looking at roughly $50,000 a year.
Plus
We're-
the maintenance contract.
Plus the maintenance contract, which is probably going to be in the $20,000 range. So even if we received no other grant money, the money that we pay out would be equal to or less than what we're paying right now to rent the lights. And then we achieve the energy savings of LEDs
yeah.
versus the incandescent lights we have now, or sodium vapor lights we have now.
Okay. Any further questions?
And just a couple of comments on the Light Smart Energy Consulting. 6 years ago, when I was first elected as a selectman, I attended my first Massachusetts Municipal Association conference. That was in January of 2012. The very first workshop I attended there was regarding National Grid and LED streetlights. The presenter of that workshop was George Woodbury. At the time, he worked for Siemens Corporation. He was extremely knowledgeable about National Grid, all the grants and rebate opportunities available, helping communities upgrade their lights from the high sodium lights to LEDs. He just really was very knowledgeable, and I learned a lot about streetlights. I talked with him afterwards and invited him to come to Whitman to make a presentation about streetlights 6 years ago. And unfortunately, what happened was Siemens Corporation sent somebody else to do that presentation. Unfortunately, the gentleman they sent was not as knowledgeable, and he made a very, very poor presentation, and that kind of shut the streetlight project down at that point. But this gentleman, George Woodbury, has never left my mind, and it just so happens his company is the one that's the lowest bidder, and is basically we hope to hire them as our consultant, and I believe he's going to do an excellent job. He's very knowledgeable in Massachusetts law, National Grid workings, streetlight designs. They have a very good portfolio and very good references. I have every faith in them that they're going to do an excellent job for Whitman.
Okay. That being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0.
Aye.
Okay. Act on the request of Caitlin Youngman on behalf of the Whitman Cultural Council to reserve the Town Hall Auditorium as an alternate location for the summer band concerts in the event of inclement weather, in accordance with the dates outlined in a memo dated May 16th, 2018. Fair motion.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of Jim Morgridge on behalf of Harbor to the Bay Incorporated for permission to pass through Whitman along Route 58 between the hours of 7:45 a.m. and 10:45 a.m. on Saturday, September 15, 2018, as part of the 16th Annual Harbor to Bay Charity Bike Ride. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Chief, want to say anything on this? It's a yearly bike ride. You have anything to say?
We help them out.
Okay. All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Act on the request of the Board of Health for a line item transfer in the amount of $2,700 from line item 127, removal of dead animals, to line item 126, animal control expense. Your motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any questions?
What was the reason for this again?
Expenditures in the animal control area.
Not getting enough dead animals?
No.
Well, this would have been a reserve fund transfer, except the money is otherwise available.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of town clerk for line item transfer in the amount of $165.05 from line item 1, town meeting and election, to line item 71, expense. Town clerk's asking for this.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Act on the town administrator's request for a line item transfer in the amount of $22,000 from line item 172 Norfolk County vocational tuition to line item 245 street lighting. There a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any question?
Do you want to speak on it, Frank?
Sure. As you probably know, electrical rates went up over a period of months, almost 3 cents per kilowatt, and that hits very significantly to our street lighting bill. That's like a 3 out of 13, about a 22% increase in energy cost.
This is something that we're trying to get away from by the other project. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, discuss motor vehicle fine appropriation issue.
There's another line item transfer,
Where did I miss it?
right below the 22.
Oh, act on request of the town administrator to request for a line item transfer in the amount of $44,000 from line item 172 Norfolk Agricultural vocational tuition to line item 57 law account. Your motion.
Motion.
Second.
This is due to not the increase.
It's due to contracts, claims, and everything else that hit us this year in legal. There are a number of things, some still going on, that require use of counsel.
And the reason we have so much left in our Norfolk County is just tuition, is
It was 3 kids that
didn't go?
didn't go.
Right, and it's-
One that didn't go and the 2 that we budgeted for.
It's like, what, 20-something thousand?
23,000 a kid.
Student. Yeah. Any other further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Discuss motor vehicle fine appropriation issue.
Okay, at town meeting, we voted to appropriate from the motor vehicle fine to purchase 2 vehicles. Unfortunately, at the time we voted, there was a $14,000 credit from the state to motor vehicles that actually belonged in the Complete Streets program. So at the time we voted, we believed we had the funds to support the lease purchase of 2 vehicles. I'm looking at what other options we have, but frankly, I don't see any, in which case I would have to recommend that we reduce the purchase to 1 vehicle unless I can come up with a way to find those funds.
Is there any way of doing a line item transfer from any other? I have to be within the police to the police, right?
It's next year's money.
Oh, next year's, oh.
We can't, so we can't assume that there's more money going into the motor vehicle fine account?
The law
do
requires
know
that
there
your
is.
appropriation be made based on
What's
what's available the day it's voted. You know, we can argue it was there, but it wasn't.
So where would you think that you could find an additional 14,000 to maybe,
Even if we found it and then took it out of the motor
That's something
vehicle
like
fine
you-
account at the
Yeah, I'd
special
like
and
to.
bring it?
yeah? Can you come up with 14 grand?
No, so I just found out about this yesterday.
Yeah.
The motor vehicle fine account, I know we can buy equipment out of it and stuff like that. I'm not sure, I haven't had a chance, other than a brief conversation with Frank when I asked yesterday why it was on the agenda. And he told me because the money was voted and it wasn't there, and then he told me, well, we can't do it. And I said, well, is there a way? He said, well, let me look at
But I
it.
do want to note that your office was notified last week about this. It wasn't like you just. you
My
may not-
office was
You may
notified?
not have realized it, but your office was notified last week.
By
when
who?
It came to my attention, Katrina.
Katrina did not know about it. That's not true.
Okay.
The accountant spoke to Katrina.
She did not know about it.
Okay,
And I asked you, the only reason I even knew is because I asked you, why is it on there? But 3 weeks you've known. Why wouldn't you call me as the department
No, I
head?
didn't know. I knew last week when the accountant came to me and said, we had an error in appropriations. And she said Katrina was very upset when I told her about it. At that point, it would have been reasonable to assume that you also would have known.
Well, I didn't.
So when you brought it up today, or yesterday, whatever it was, I explained to you what it was. But I don't want it intimated that the police department wasn't notified until yesterday.
What I want intimated is the first call should have been from you to me, I would think. Is
You were
it
away.
my department?
You were away, Katrina was notified.
I was away. I have my phone. I have to answer my phone. I was away.
Well, regardless, Chief, do you have an idea of what we can do?
Legally, I don't know what I can do. I rely on the town administrator to help me with that stuff.
What
I
else
don't know.
What else are we buying out of that account? Just the 2 cruisers?
No, there were appropriations made
Out of it?
out of it. And the appropriations made exceed the amount of money
Right, but what I'm
that
saying is,
should have been available.
the other appropriations, other than the cruises, is there other appropriations other than the
Of
cruises in it?
next year's money?
Yeah, there were second or third year payments
Okay, so I
for
mean,
vehicles.
From the motor vehicle fine account that we
Yeah.
had made adjustments and we were gonna take stuff out of expense. And then when that money came in, we thought that, good fortune had shined on us. Through no fault of anybody, I understand that, there was an error. Some money was raised and appropriated, so that money's there. So if we only can get one vehicle, then we can only get one vehicle. But I would like to at least try to explore every avenue we can before we just fold up the tent and go home.
Does this require any action on us, other than,
No,
we've
if
got
we
time,
can-
we can try and
if
figure
we
it
can
out. We
Figure
don't
out a
have
way to come up with,
You're not looking
the
for us to
additional money,
vote
no.
anything,
no, I'm
really. We're
simply
just
to
discussing.
inform the
it.
board.
In the motor vehicle fine account right now, there's 46,000. 44 has to come out. The deposit for June hasn't hit yet. So whatever that is, you're probably talking, you're gonna be up around 5,000 or 6,000. So we could be short $8,000 or $9,000 at the end of the day for what's in there.
But this is this year's money that we're talking about. It's in this year's motor vehicle fine account.
Right.
But we're purchasing
Right, but
something
once it's-
next year.
Yes,
It was in this
it's
year's money.
appropriated for purchase.
But we've appropriated this year's money to
Correct.
purchase something for
Yeah.
next year.
Correct.
So I don't understand, and I don't know why
Well, we could purchase it now.
FY '19 goes from July 1
Understand why.
to
This
June
is just
30th, and that
Because it
money
was voted in
constantly
the
goes into that
July
account.
1st meeting.
So
But they voted it for.
there's money
We didn't
goes into
vote
that
it in
account
special.
every month.
Yeah.
Right.
So there'll certainly be money in there to do this.
but can we do it, can we use that money legally if it's
I
after the
don't-
first
that I
year?
can't
Maybe-
answer.
Question we can ask.
Right.
That's beyond what I do.
Right, that's what we have to ask and
It-
find out.
It's subject to appropriation.
Right,
The appropriation, the statute is clear on reserve for appropriation accounts. You can only appropriate what's on hand at the time of the vote. So the appropriation that was made with the belief that we had 14,000 more than we had.
we never
Yeah.
estimate, it has to be exactly
It
what's in
has to
there.
be what's in there at the time of the meeting.
Okay, so,
The subsequent funds can be used, but would have to be appropriated. Because it's not a revolving account, it's a reserve for appropriation.
what if, I don't know if we can do this, what if,
I mean, I'll
like,
go to the DOR, but I'm
Yeah,
certain what they're
yeah.
gonna tell
So
me.
you don't think we could fix it in a special? That
We could, in a special, sure.
yeah, but you're gonna spend $5,000 to get $5,000?
No, we could fix it in the special that we're
Okay.
gonna have in May.
In May.
So
right.
we've-
Oh,
I had
Keep
asked
punched
that,
in the
I
meantime
had
and then we
asked
fix
that
it.
if we could do it then, because the money will be there.
Right.
And-
This is
and-
something Frank would have to find out.
And I said, if you would like, I will contact the
Yeah.
Department of Revenue
See what they can come up
for
with.
guidance, but I'm pretty
I mean,
certain what the answer's gonna be.
I mean, I guess we gotta just
So what
explore
I'm
all avenues.
trying to figure out is whether or not there's any other appropriation that we've made that can be used for that purpose.
I have a question, Frank. This, I don't know if you can do this, but if we have, it's like any monies that go into that account in the fiscal year ends June 30th.
No, a reserve for appropriation account is a real-time account. Money is constantly going in there.
I know that, but I'm saying the year end is June 30th, right?
Yes.
What happens if in the article that we do, we say use the money that is, the total of monies in that account as of end of the fiscal year? So that we have that extra, we have,
You can only appropriate what's in the till.
At the time.
I know that, right, so,
Can we encumber any money from this fiscal year to next?
I don't know, I don't know.
Say we were gonna turn in $10,000 out of all other services, can you encumber that?
Fair question.
Yeah, he'll have to find out.
Like
You
I
could do a line
said,
item transfer.
It's not like
Okay.
we're trying not to get the money for you.
No, I'm trying to get the money, but if I can't, I can't, but I don't wanna come up here a month from now, oh geez, we could have done this.
Right, well,
So,
come up, Frank will come up with some ideas, if you have some ideas.
well,
contact Frank.
I mean, that's, encumber, I don't know, I mean, the money's gonna be there. So if I wanted to buy equipment in September and there's money in that motor vehicle fine account, I can't buy that equipment until the next town meeting,
you
till
have
they
to have
appropriate
a
it?
meeting to appropriate it.
Town meeting's gonna tell you what to
It's
do.
a reserve for appropriation account.
Okay. Well, maybe we can encumber it then.
Okay,
I don't know.
okay, that was just a discussion, right, Frank?
Yep.
Act on the town administrator's recommendation for applications and process for constable appointments. Frank?
As you know, we talked last meeting about the process for constable appointments. It's the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen to make that appointment, and the statute provides that the chief of police, when requested, will assist us in the investigation and evaluation of a candidate. Dr. Kowalski had asked that I put a outline together that included the application process, the evaluation process, and a recommendation process. So what we would be doing is receiving an application, forwarding the information to the chief of police for investigation and evaluation, and seek a recommendation from the chief with respect to the appointment.
Sounds like a plan. Any
And the
board-
format is what's in your agenda.
Yeah. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Comfortable with it? Excellent.
That's it. And are we gonna start collecting fees which we're entitled to?
Yes, that's
On the
part of the
constable.
application process.
Well, that's a fee for every one of their,
Yep, no, it's in
Process.
the application, it instructs the constable that they're required to submit. The statute pertaining to fees is included there.
So, how often do they do that?
They're supposed to submit fees monthly, and they're supposed to provide a report annually. I've looked back, it isn't a lucrative operation by any means. I think there were $560 in fees collected last year. And that may be because not all the constables are complying with it. I haven't inquired of them yet. But with the approval of this process, I'm going to send an application to each constable that's currently operating so that we can get the file information we should already have and moving forward.
And who's got the responsibility of collecting and chasing, the treasurer collector?
Yes, they're required to submit to the treasurer collector, and then the annual report is used to confirm that we've received appropriate fees.
You need a vote on that, Frank, or just,
If,
What, are we gonna adopt it as a new policy?
yeah, think that would be the way to
I
do
think
it.
we can, I make a motion that we adopt that as a new policy.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Randy, you thinking?
No, I'm reading.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote to certify permanent intermittent reserve police appointments.
Several months ago, the board authorized conditional offers of employment to candidates for reserve intermittent status. All of the necessary process has been completed for all but one, and your vote will authorize us to actually appoint
Well, which one?
them. The one who isn't on the list.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on it? All set, chief, on that? All set, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Call for a sergeant's list, Frank?
We have a vacancy in the sergeant's position. I'd like permission to call for a list.
You need a motion on that?
Yep.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd kind of like to hear from Matt Tobin on this. My concern is.
I've talked to Matt about it.
Yeah. What happens if this gets down to civil service and they say, for whatever crazy reason, Whitman, you're out of your mind, give him his patch back, give him his stripes back, and give him all that money back?
Then we'd be back where we were in 1996 when we had 6 sergeants.
Yeah. And,
An extra lieutenant.
I mean, not that I want to, drag this out to infinity, but, because God only knows how long it'll be before we hear from civil service. You had a pre-conference?
Yes.
Anything
Yeah.
come out of that, or is that a?
Well, we've set a schedule. The hearing will be in August, I believe.
Yes, chief.
May I?
Yes.
So we never filled Sergeant Reynolds when he retired. We never filled his position at sergeant. We let it go, and now this one. So the department could certainly
July
use a
26th.
supervisor in that role. And if something changed, then it would just be the equivalent of Sergeant Reynolds hadn't retired.
So basically, you're saying that we actually could use possibly two sergeants, but we know for sure one.
Right, there is a need for one.
Right.
Hey,
Okay?
I mean, the board can do, obviously, it's the board's choice, but I'm just supporting the town administrator when he's telling you that there is a need, and I can tell you that we didn't fill Sergeant Reynolds, so.
Right. Frank, if we call for a sergeant's list, does that mean we have to promote someone to a sergeant?
Yes.
I really would like to hear from Matt myself, but I don't know.
Well, I did talk to
You know,
Matt.
I
Matt
know.
didn't have any concerns about it, but I'll have him contact you.
I don't see any harm waiting.
You want to table this, one too?
We should vote.
Vote not to?
Well, I mean, why are we gonna keep tabling things?
Right.
We have a quorum.
Well, I personally would like to hear from Matt before I vote on it. I may vote yea, I may vote nay.
Well, are we gonna call him in?
Do we have anything coming up that he's gonna be here for in the near future? I'll call him myself.
They get permission from Frank.
With permission from the board.
Unless you want to table it to our next meeting, Frank. In 2 weeks, for 2 weeks.
Whatever the pleasure of the board is. I mean,
You want to table it for 2 weeks, Frank, get a hold of him, or you can do a conference call between, answer your questions?
Yep.
Okay, Frank?
we'll bring it back at the next meeting.
Discuss community assessment.
As you know, we've we're approaching some pretty interesting times. And Carl had talked about seeking a form of a community assessment questionnaire to the citizens of Whitman to find out what they feel the town needs, to be participants in the process. Yesterday, I met with Dr. Michelle Tarsi from the Bridgewater State University. She heads up their MPA program. And we're going to talk about putting together a community assessment questionnaire. I've invited Dr. Tarsi to attend our next meeting on June 26th to talk in more detail about it in terms of the focus and direction we want to take in conducting this assessment. It's probably essential to our planning for fiscal '20. It's not probably, it is essential.
Stepping in the right direction.
Yep. Definitely a good idea.
Any questions for Frank? Other questions? Discuss performance appraisals, Frank?
We are seeking to develop a performance appraisal process for management personnel, non-union personnel. Lisa has started to collect some information, as have I, and will be presenting a process to the board for review, either at our next meeting or in July.
Any questions for Frank on that? And Mr. Limbiazi's budget review. Scott, you're up.
Yeah, so, I'd like to have a full board when we get into this, so I think it's going to be an agenda item over and over perhaps, but I think as we go forward, as we're trying to work with the Finance Committee and try and get a budget together that we can get into town meeting next year, I think it'd be nice to have the department heads present to us as a board, at least the larger department heads, to present a budget to us showing cuts and what they, and within that, I think that they have to give us a narrative on how that's going to affect services. So we need to know, and we need to get it out there to everybody, that what's going to happen if we do have to cut this budget and what it's going to mean to the level of service that the town's going to receive. I think alternatively or additionally that they should be, presenting us either a level service budget or maybe just even a level funded budget as much as is practicable. But I think we need to be more involved, and I think we need them to come in here and present to us. And I think we need some, a certain level of detail on that shows, what they've been doing historically and what they're looking to do in the future, which goes into, I know that Frank has already asked them for some long-term plans and 5-year plans and stuff that will help us guide them, and certainly help the Finance Committee guide them going forward. I think that, sort of segueing into Frank's bit and into the next section of this with policies, this is a manual that I use, and this has more policies than actually some of them I don't even know of, and some that we don't need, but certainly something for us to fall back on. And it starts, with purchasing procedures, as we talked about earlier, but there's fiscal policies in here, and there's requirements and requests, and exactly how people are going to, and how department heads are going to work with us, work with the Finance Committee, and how we're all going to work together. So I think it's really important, we've, and I know what it's like to try and work on these things, because as you try to get into these, there's 50 people who are going to walk in the door at the town manager's office every day,
Right.
and look for something else, and there's a fire somewhere that's got to be put out. But it's important to us that we have these, especially now. Going forward, I think we have to make sure that the town knows that we are taking this seriously, and that we are taking an active role, and and it's not just being left out there just to to Frank and Lisa, but that we're going to work with Finance Committee and we're gonna get this done.
Yeah, especially like when the department heads go to the FinCom and Frank sits and Lisa sits on those meetings and goes over their budgets. And then all of a sudden we realize that there's more requests than we have for funds. You know, that's something that we should probably know prior to when we actually find out. That way we, you know, we can,
Yeah, I think it's time, I mean, like, to get a handle on it, I mean, I think the budget season has to start early.
Yeah.
And it has to start, and I think it's important to have the discipline of, as much as it's very difficult for a department head, and I hate doing it myself, but to look at your budget and what's gonna happen if you were ordered or forced to have a 3% cut across the board, and you still have contractual obligations.
right.
Where do you take that from? How do you do that? How do you do it without laying people off? Do you only do it with laying people off? And then what is the narrative on how is that directly going to affect the community? And that's the message that we have to get out, is that, that we're looking at some very serious issues here at some very dark times if we don't deal with it.
Right, and look at it earlier.
Yeah, the earlier the better, the sooner
I
the
mean,
better.
Randy, I know, we used to do it on the FinCom, when I was on the Finance Committee, we try to get all budgets in before November. So we have to look at them, then you have December, January, February, to really
Yeah.
dig into it, and, maybe it needs to be sooner. I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
as you know, in years gone by,
right,
this board was more involved in the budget process. And for whatever reason, we've relegated that responsibility to the Finance Committee, and that, this is the executive board of the town. We need to set direction.
Yeah, I think it's only fair. They work very hard and with, with very little time, then I think, we have to jump in and we have to help and we have to help set a tone, especially with the larger departments. Some of the smaller ones, there isn't a lot they can do.
no,
But I think that we need to get in. And then it gives us the ability to work with them, because the idea here is not for us to, is to decimate anybody's department or to.
at least be aware of what's going on.
We got to figure out a way to make it work, because
Right.
we know that we certainly want to make sure that the town is still receiving the highest level of service we can provide,
Right, correct.
and that they're used to, and that they deserve.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Okay, go with, anything else on that?
Nope.
We'll probably discuss it even further when we
I
have a full
think it's
board.
going to end up being, and I think it's just going to have to be sort of an agenda item that we carry over in old business. And then, like I said, it's work with Frank to decide, I know he's already kicked it off,
Yeah.
as far as meeting with the department heads, and then just exactly how much of it we want to get involved in and work with the Finance Committee on and tackle it together. I think we do need, and from what I've seen, I know it's difficult, but I think we need a certain level of detail with the budgets and with spending and historical spending to sort of get a grip on it all, so.
And it could come down to having more department head meetings where, possibly where a couple of us are sitting in on it and coming back here
I go to enough.
Yeah,
and relaying the information.
it's been in the past where if a selectman sat in a department head meeting, they're kind of reluctant to say anything. But if they're all together with Frank, I mean, it's like an open discussion, but when we're there, it's almost like, daddy's home, because I used to sit in on department head meeting when I was chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and I remember Frank saying, they're not as free and easy, some of them.
I would find it awkward
Right,
that
see?
way, but I do think, and I think there was talk that there's going to be some sort of a committee that's going to be put together, hopefully with members of finance, a member or two from here, that's going to help work with direction on how we want this to go, because I think we need everybody's input on where we're going to go with this going forward.
Right, and we also have to come up with a way of getting more revenue to the town.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think everybody has to do
I mean, we definitely
a
still
fee
have
review.
some very tough choices ahead that we need to address sooner than later. And definitely when we have a full committee.
Right, I mean, we have capital projects that are way overdue, way overdue.
And we're
but
also
it takes money.
$600,000 short going into next year,
Right, exactly right,
so.
okay.
Based on everything we know.
Right.
Yeah, so far, yeah. Okay, under old business, take action to approve streetlight project consultant. Are we tabling that because we're looking at it further, or do you
Well,
want
I
to?
think Lisa is prepared to make a recommendation based on the RFQs, are you not?
Members of the board?
Are we ready to vote for this here? It's under
Do you have
old
any more
business,
questions?
take action to approve streetlight
She
project
basically
consultant.
covered it, right?
Just pretty much.
Randy, I did go downstairs and grab some pricing for maintenance contracts to give you an idea. So I do have this
All right.
available for you. But I do recommend that the board allow us to move forward with Light Smart Energy Consulting, as they were the lowest bidder. I should say lowest acceptable bidder. There was one bidder who was lower, but unfortunately their bid was deemed non-responsive because half of the bid was missing. They didn't address
Minor detail.
tasks 6 through 8 in their bid.
Did they
and
just not feel up for
yeah,
the
the
task?
information they sent was very confusing, and they didn't explain their charts and sheets and things like that, so they were deemed non-responsive. So the lowest bidder was Lightsmart, and as I said, George Woodbury and his brother Brian are the owners of this company, and they've stayed with me for 6 years based on that workshop he's put on, so I have very high positive faith in these folks that they can do a great job for Whitman.
Did you have to do this through 25A, or is this just a basic 30B? It's not like
It's
one of those
30B with
energy
the
saving?
MAPC.
Right.
Oh, so, because they already did it, so you were
Yes,
picking
the
through them.
MAPC, we
Right.
participated
Nice.
in the MAPC bid.
Good. Yeah.
Any other, do I take a motion?
Motion. Second?
Any further discussion on it? Randy, you look like you're ready.
No?
Okay, you're looking at it, I didn't see the
I
question on
already
your
asked my
face.
questions.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Travel expense policy, Frank?
I was asked to put together a travel and expense reimbursement policy. What I presented incorporates information we previously had, some of the procedures that are outlined in Duxbury's
Which is a very generous
policy,
policy, I might add.
and incorporating some specific guidelines for expenditures.
Is our intention to sort of look at several of these, or do we want to, I'd certainly say wait for the other two members of the board before adopting it, but.
Yeah,
Do you
sure.
want to
But I was asked
adopt
to
them
bring
in a
it to
group?
this meeting.
Which, no, I appreciate, and I'm just wondering if we want to adopt stuff like this in a packet, do you want to do
Well,
more
that's-
than one thing, or do you want
that's-
to take them one at a time, or
You
as we
know,
go?
that's the reason the personnel policy in its total isn't here. We've been building and
away.
adopting and
Yeah.
pecking away at the issues in it, and it's apparent to me that that's not working. So what I'm suggesting we do is we adopt policies
As they come.
as they come and then incorporate them
In a
in the
package?
full policy, because we originally voted on that personnel policy, but then we started adding to it.
And I think we voted to keep it a living document up to where it
Yeah.
was, and then,
Right.
which is gonna happen, is there's
So-
going to be statutes and.
Yeah, but Scott, are you suggesting that, we'll say like the two policies that are coming up, the travel and expense policy and the personnel policy, you want to wait for a full
Well,
board?
I kind of think it's important enough that everybody's here, and I do
I
want
agree.
them, and I
Then we'll
want,
bring it back on the
Yeah.
26th.
Yeah, I agree.
Not
This,
that-
this is something that the full board needs to weigh in on, not just three of us.
right. I mean, I think it's great we're getting it done, and we're working in the right direction, but it would be best to have
I agree.
input from,
Okay?
Okay, around the board. That's it, right? Right, around the board. Frank?
that's it.
Today, I attended a meeting of Whitman Hanson Will. They're continuing to work at this, for lack of a better description, social crisis we have between opioids and addiction. And one of the things that they presented was the second night out for recovery, which is going to be held at the Rock Stadium on Monday, June 25th. The gates open at 6 PM. The sponsors are the Brockton Rocks, the Office of Mayor Carpenter, Brockton Area Prevention Collaborative, the Champion Plan, PCO Hope, Plymouth County Outreach and Teen Challenge. And for those who wish to attend a game, you can get a discount on the ticket by using the promo code RECOVERY when you order the tickets online. So again, that's Monday, June 25th at 6 PM for anyone who may be interested in attending.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Randy?
I was just wondering if we had posted the job opening we had for accountant.
I'm bringing that forward with salary scales and discussion on the 26th. I'm waiting because I'm asking the interim person we have to evaluate what's needed there. We previously had a 4-day, 31-hour employee as an accountant. My question is that sufficient? Do we need more? Do we need less? And he's in the process of evaluating that. So I will bring that forward.
Okay, good. It's fine.
And then we'll have to decide how we want to recruit.
I have a couple of things. Just to remind, normally after election, we reorganize our meeting, but where we don't have a full board, we're going to wait till we have a full board to reorganize. So we'll probably do that at our next
You
meeting.
can make him chairman, right?
Second of all, last Friday, we had our South Shore Tech graduation ceremony. We had 146 graduates, which is the largest class in South Shore Tech's history. So it was outstanding. And then the last thing, on June 17th, Father's Day, I'll be attending an Eagle Scout Court of Honor for Zachary White and Aiden White. These are twin boys. They're actually triplets, but the two boys, I think it was two boys and a girl. They used to live in Whitman. They belonged to Troop 59. They moved to East Bridgewater, so the project which they did to receive their Eagle Scout status was done in East Bridgewater, so consequently, normally a pack or a troop that comes out of Whitman does a project in Whitman, we give them a proclamation. But where they did the project in East Bridgewater, we're going to give them a letter of congratulations on their receiving the highest award for scouting, which is the Eagle Scout. So I'll be doing that, actually Father's Day. Nice Father's Day for me. So that's all I have. And I need a vote to go into executive session according with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
We'll be coming into open session to adjourn only. Thank you.